Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream and your daily transfer update. And the mood has slightly changed from Saturday night when I was here and, enjoying the fact that it looked like Ugarte was about to sign for Chelsea. Go to bed last night. There were some slight rumours saying that, PSG might be able to get him still. Wake up Monday morning and he's a PSG player. Chelsea have walked away. And there's all sorts of conflicting reports. Some are saying that PSG up there offered to over 10 million euros a season, in which case I'm like, well, a fully understandable Chelsea walking away from that, not prepared to go above the market value. And I'd fully back the club on that. And you've got other reports from France saying that, Chelsea tried to offer some sort of minor investment into Sporting to help with the deal. Was that illegal or not? You don't really know what to believe. Then you've got Ben Jacobs, who's been very consistent throughout, saying that the PSG offer was never anywhere near what was reported, and it was just under 5 million euros. There's all sorts of information out there, and it's hard to sort of decipher what's true and what isn't. All the outlets in Portugal saying that it was pretty much a done deal. They were pretty all spot on with the Enzo stuff, and then they're saying that there was a 10 million euro offer that came in sort of on Saturday, Sunday night, even though Chelsea had kind of had it all agreed. I don't really know what's going on here. It's hard to know what to believe, but ultimately the answer to it now is that Chelsea have missed out on Manuel Ugarte, and he's in Paris now having his PSG medical, which means that we need to shift on to other midfield targets and get a move on, because otherwise we could be in big trouble in midfield. Delighted to be joined by Lawrence. Bro, thank you for coming. I'm not going to lie, mate. I got excited. I'm sure you've got a little bit excited as well, like a lot of Chelsea fans did. Mate, what is going on here? Because there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of it doesn't make much sense.
No, it's so weird, isn't it? Like me and Pice were on my stream yesterday, and we were like sat there. Or Pice was saying like at this point he feels like it's 95% done type thing of Ugarte coming to Chelsea. And then a couple of hours later, you already been asleep. It all kicks off all of a sudden. And obviously, like you touched on, first we get those weird reports from France that we were investing in Sporting, and that's kind of why Sporting were making Ugarte choose Chelsea. Now, the French outlets were saying that he actually prefers Paris. Some other outlets were saying, no, he still prefers Chelsea, but still Sporting are now telling him he has to take Chelsea. This also was then reported by the Mirror in the UK. But then all of a sudden, the next bit of news was Ben Jacobs and then Fabrizio Romano saying we pulled out of the deal. And I'm like, well, what's happened here then? Like you just touched on the intro. Like, what, has this got anything to do with, like, wasn't this legal, what we were doing? And now it became public. So we were like, all right, let's pull out. Or is it that PSG all of a sudden raised their offer? There was some talk going on how, like, Jorge Mendes, obviously Ugarte's agent, like apparently went to PSG, say, he's accepted that Chelsea offer, blah, blah, blah. But then they raised the offer, but God knows to what. Some saying 10 million euros now. Some saying it's still less than 5 million euros. Some God knows what it is, right? Fact of the matter is, as much as I even understand if it's the whole 10 mil thing, it's just there's a couple of things that we need to do. And I know we can't control all of it, but first of all, we need to stop this much information constantly getting to the media. That is the first thing we need to stop doing, because it's gone to a ridiculous point now. And these owners and these directors need to stop embarrassing the football club. And I'm not saying that I'm not sat here necessarily so sad because I think Manuel Ugarte is the best player in the world. He's a very good player who I would have liked to have at the club, who I think would complement Enzo really well in midfield. But I don't think I think we can get players of similar ability, better ability, whatever else. I think those other players will probably cost more than Ugarte would have done. So there's also that debate to be had, is like, pulling out of it because they're offering so much in wages. Yeah, but Caicedo is going to cost 100 mil though, So I'm like, think about this. So I just think we look like a complete bunch of clowns, not like we haven't done for God knows how long at this point. Like, it just feels like the Rafinha saga a little bit, like all over again, like last year. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it here. I cannot be put up with these directors and owners anymore. Like, just leave me alone. Do you know what I mean? Do your shit in quiet, and I don't even want to know.
Mate, my biggest thing with this is, like, I agree with you. Look, it's not, I'm not going to cry about us missing out on Ugarte. Yeah, it would have been great to get him, and by all accounts, Poch really wanted him, and it would have been great to have been able to give the manager one of the key players that he wants. Ultimately, we weren't able to do that. But my biggest issue of this is that, like, as you touched on, the amount of information that seems to get out surrounding Chelsea transfers. Now, I obviously don't follow in as much detail other teams' transfer business as I do with Chelsea transfer business, but it seems to me that so much information gets out in terms of Chelsea transfer dealings, and that probably needs to stop a little bit as well. I also feel that like we've obviously wasted a lot of time on this deal. I don't know how long we've been negotiating for, but it's clear that, we wanted to get this done. And it looks like now all our efforts have been wasted. I'm not saying that we were solely focusing on this deal and now they're going to start opening conversations with other people. You obviously run multiple kind of conversations and deals at the same time. But I'm just thinking, well, how have we come this far and then been just like, oh, we're going to pull out now? Like, what's caused us to pull out last minute? I mean, do you know what? If it literally is money and PSG have suddenly ups their offer to something we're not prepared to pay, I actually respect the fact that we've got limits in the market and we're not prepared to go above and pay players more than we think they're worth. Because otherwise, mate, we end up in the situation we've ended up in previous years where we sign players on big wages who aren't actually that good, and then we cannot get rid of them. We just end up loaning them out season after season at vast expense to us, and they leave on a free, like your Bakayokos. Like, we're going to struggle to get rid of certain players because of the big wages that they're on, like Kepa and things like that. So I respect it from that point of view, and I get it, and I think it makes sense. But ultimately, I also think they're going to massively struggle with the caliber of player that we're going for and the clubs we're likely to be up against, that if we don't offer something that's going to be anywhere near competitive, we're always going to, we can't rely solely on the strength of a sporting project with no Champions League football and just offering wages that other teams can easily blow us out the water with. This is the issue that I've got with it. Like, what do you think the balance is, though, mate, between wanting to stick within our wage structure, but then accepting it also for top players when you're competing with top clubs? We're going to have to offer maybe more than we're prepared to offer.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, on the one hand, we're getting rid of every player, especially all of them in midfield to start with, it feels like. But we seem incapable of getting players. Like, you put in a title, like sign Moises Caicedo at all costs, and I agree. But if we can't get Ugarte, what's making anyone think we're going to get Caicedo? He's going to cost more. He's going to have a bigger... His wages are going to be bigger, and we're going to be competing against other Premier League clubs. So we don't even have the advantage of, Premier League being their dream, the advantage we had over PSG. We won't have that when fighting for Caicedo against Arsenal, let alone the fact that Caicedo is obviously already in the Premier League. So it's just a shit show, really. But this is what you get into, though, when you're like, oh, we're doing a whole squad clear out, and you're just sat there. Yeah, we're going to get all these players, but then what if you don't? Then what happens? Do you sign worse players, or do you keep some of the players? But we've already told half of our players that we want them gone, so they don't want to stay now. So we've ruined it now. So then will we sign some worse players? And will they be our new Bakayokos and our new, Drinkwaters? Because now that we're in a bad position, we need them. But then after a year or two, when we're back in the Champions League and stuff, we can't really be bothered for these shit players anymore. And then we buy better ones, and we're stuck with them again. It's just a whole shit show. And I'm like, that's why I quite enjoyed the Ugarte target, because I'm like, okay, we're not in the Champions League. We have that issue, but we are in the Premier League, so we have that benefit over clubs outside of the Prem, like PSG. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. He might not be quite as good as Caicedo, and I know we always tried for both, but still, I was like, okay, let's go for a slightly easier to get target. And we didn't even manage that. And what I also find weird is how fast we seemingly pulled out, because we were reportedly in Portugal trying to finish it yesterday. So the fact that, no one reported that Ugarte was like, okay, no, with this new PSG offer, I picked them. No, the report was that we pulled out. So we did. At least it felt like, obviously, we don't know the details, but it didn't even seem like we gave Ugarte time to choose. So that's what's making me think that we weren't happy with this whole investing in sporting story being public, and that's why we pulled out. That's why I think that's much more likely than the whole PSG offer.
But that just came from nothing, though, didn't it? That literally appeared last night from L'Equipe. There had been nothing reported from any Portuguese outlets at all. Obviously, maybe Sporting briefing them saying, "Look, guys, do not release this." But then, who's released it to the French outlets? Then that's what I'm not getting, because no one on the Chelsea side is going to release that to the French outlets. I mean,
he probably got wind to the French guys through Jorge Mendes, because obviously dealing with PSG as well.
But it's not even to do with a fee, though, because the fee's the same from both clubs. It's a release clause. Obviously, we're paying it in installments and whatnot, but there's nothing to agree on fee wise. It's the same deal for Sporting, and it's the same money from either club. So, I mean, Ugarte is obviously choosing PSG partly for money, I would think.
Well, I don't even know if he chose PSG or if because we pulled out, that was the only thing left on the table.
When he has to go to. I don't really know, but I mean, does this, because we've seen this happen a number of times before. Now, admittedly, we've pulled out of this one, so, but maybe we just pulled out because we were delaying the inevitable, rather than look like embarrassed that he chose PSG over us and we pulled out. Then maybe that slightly saves face for us and makes us look a little bit better. But with certain transfer targets now, there's a slight worry for me that we are missing out on players because they're choosing other teams for whatever reasons that might be. We saw Rafinha, we saw it with Koundé, we've seen it now with Ugarte. It could happen with others. It could happen with Caicedo, maybe. It's going to happen with Declan Rice. That should have been an easy-ish transfer for Chelsea to do. We're not even
last
mentioned.
year would have been.
Yeah, we're not even mentioned with Declan Rice anymore. I mean,
no, I don't know how much of this is public information, but he doesn't want to join Chelsea. So.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Because he's not even linked with us anymore. Like that's what you get these days. It's like literally it's Arsenal and it's Bayern Munich. Like that's kind of where the situation seems.
It's so bad that I would obviously rather him go to Bayern Munich so he's not in the Prem. But
I would as well.
If he doesn't go to Arsenal, that means Arsenal will go for Caicedo, and then I'm like, how on earth are we getting Caicedo?
I actually think, mate, I've actually be honest, mate. I honestly think that Caicedo could choose Arsenal over us, and that's not even like that's not
absolutely. So that's why I'm like, if they get Rice, maybe they're less likely to have all the money that it will take for Caicedo. So maybe it's even better for us if Rice goes to Arsenal. Actually,
yeah, maybe it is. But mate, are you worried slightly about? At least we've been able to get great deals done for great players that you think, well, we managed to get the Enzo deal done and whatnot, which was great. But are you a little bit concerned? Are you losing trust in the ownership in the sporting department over their ability to get deals closed? Because my big problem is we're going so far in deals and then we suddenly can't get it over the line at the last minute. What's changed last minute in multiple deals that suddenly means, we don't want the player anymore? I mean, you losing faith a little bit?
Yeah, and not necessarily specifically in getting deals done. I still believe that they can manage that when they want to. And that makes me think, okay, they want to do Ugarte, but it wasn't like, as much as maybe Poch wanted him, I don't think this was a hierarchy's like first choice. Otherwise, I don't think they would have pulled out the way they did as so suddenly, unless there was legal issues after this whole thing came out. Then yeah, sure. But just losing faith in the whole idea of how they're going about things. Like, I'm still very unhappy about Mount leaving. I find it utterly ridiculous, especially of things that I'm hearing in the background, which I might not even be allowed to talk about publicly. All of it, like. It's ridiculous. That's all I can say. And I'm sorry to be like, I don't know what I can say. But it's ridiculous. And it's just... like I was talking about this on my stream yesterday. We're having a PR war against the player that's been at the club since he's 8. What else? Like, how? It doesn't get worse than that. Like, if they can't even secure a contract of a player that's been here since he's 8, what are they going to be able to do? Like, they will do some things, but you can't be sure of what they do. You know?
Yeah, it's difficult, and and people, Chelsea will say, Caicedo wasn't really a top target. He's always part of the quote unquote the list. He's on the list, is what people like to say with the likes of Caicedo, Lavia, Kone, and all these guys. But how big a blow do you think this is that we've missed out on Ugarte? Do you think this is going to be a massive problem for us, or I guess maybe it depends on who we subsequently get in now, but. I'm looking at Ugarte, and you look like the next options now. You're looking at, we need 2 midfielders. So you're probably looking at now really a Lavia, Liverpool interested in Kone as well. I've heard some rumours of Kefram Turam at Nice as well. But again, Liverpool seem to be linked with him. The problem we're going to have now is that, as I've said before, we're competing against teams that a lot of top teams need the same.
At least Liverpool don't have Champions League either. So I guess.
No, but they've got something to offer though. They've got Europa League to offer. I mean, I don't think that's like...
I don't think any player cares about that.
No, true. But how big a blow do you think this is missing out on Ugarte? Do you think it's a massive problem, or do you think it's only a problem if we then don't get in Caicedo or we don't get in others? Because we're in a situation now where a lot of players are going out. We need 2 or 3 midfielders to come in, and Ugarte would have been a big part of that. So how concerned are you by us missing out?
I am concerned. Like, obviously, if we get Caicedo and Lavia or Caicedo and someone else, then that's still fine. But the problem is that I don't have trust that we will get those. It's as simple as that. I don't think we'll get Osimhen. I don't think we'll get a serious striker, for being perfectly honest. I don't think we'll get Lautaro Martinez. I don't think we'll get Caicedo. And this season we had way too big of a squad. By the time we start this upcoming season, we won't even have a squad. So I mean, we will have about 10 players.
Mate,
and none of them will be fucking homegrown. They will all be 15-year-olds that we signed like last year. I mean, like we announced this Paez signing today. I'm like, fuck off.
We confirmed Kendry Paez today. Official club statement.
He joins in 2025, man. Yeah. Brilliant. It's like ridiculous. Bro, we're not stupid Americans. You don't just appease us with stupid PR like that. We ain't Trump fans. Like, what is this?
Mate, how funny is it that, like, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but on the day we've missed out on Ugarte, we then confirmed that Kendry Paez is coming, even though that's been wrapped up for bloody ages.
Yeah, no, it's a joke, man. It's an absolute joke.
It is a joke. It's a massive problem. How much bad blood do you think there is between Chelsea and PSG, and how much of this do you think is potentially a bit of a hangover from the Hakim Ziyech situation, where supposedly our fax machine let them down?
Yeah, I think it will way well play a part that it was in spite that, like, if we didn't have that relationship, that they might not have been as, like, raised their offer as much as they reportedly have. Again, we don't know for sure, I suppose, if they raised it that much. But yeah, it's not ideal, is it? It's not ideal. Like, and I also have my worries, like, all of a sudden, like, I find it so funny how on Twitter all of a sudden, Ugarte ain't that good anyway. And then all of a sudden, Caicedo is a proper 6 anyway. I'm like, yeah, but okay, for the last 2 months he wasn't, but all of a sudden he is. Like, what is it?
Well, because we need him now, he is.
No one ever said he can't do it. Kante can do it as well, but there's a reason why we chose not to let him do it.
It is a tricky one, isn't it? In terms of that. I mean, mate, you look at midfield now, and obviously outside of, I want to start with players that we have got. What do you think there's any future for Cesare Caicedo and Andre Santos in the squad next season to play like quite an important role? Because for me, I've discussed this quite a few times, and they're both top talents. Lavia is only a few months older than Andre Santos. Yes, he's got that Premier League experience and has played a lot more senior football at a top level compared to Santos, in terms of he's obviously played Premier League and whatnot compared to Santos just in the Brazilian league. But it's only 6 months difference age-wise. My issue with giving the likes of Caicedo and Santos a role is that these guys have got no experience at a top level. Yes, they're good, and there's only one way to find out if they're good. But I think we'd be taking a big risk with both of them potentially playing a part in the squad next season. I don't know if that's going to be beneficial to them to get a few rotational minutes here and there, or if their development's better served going on loan to a top 5 league in Europe playing regularly. Because let's remember, Caicedo is the only senior football he's played is half a season on loan with Reading in the Championship. That's it.
He was very good for them, to be fair.
He was good for them, and he's obviously tearing it up at the Under-20s World Cup for Italy. But there's a big difference between that and coming into the Chelsea midfield. And those guys aren't ready, in my opinion, to go and do a job and transform the midfield like it needs to be. I mean, what would you do at this point with the likes of Caicedo and Santos?
See, Caicedo is one that I don't know about anyway, because isn't he an 8? We won't play an 8 on the pod.
Well, I don't really know what maybe
I don't even know what we do with him.
But he's a bit of everything. He's like an 8, 6, and can play 10 a bit as well. He's like one of those,
which tells me he's an 8, right? Because otherwise he wouldn't be able to do 6 and 10, right? So just best either we use him as 6, which is not his best position, or we don't use him until Poch is gone again. Fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like, Andre Santos is, I haven't seen the guy play, have I? Realistically, like, I've seen clips of it at like Under-20s World Cup and at this other Under-20 South America thing. But I guess it depends on how many players capable of playing DM properly we will sign, because we might need him. But then again, might as well use Ampadu for a season. You know, I mean, he tore Tammy's ACL yesterday, so that's fun. But get well soon, Tammy, by the way. But yeah, I don't know what we do with them. It all depends. It's difficult to make judgments like this before we know for sure what system we're going to play as well. You know? Like, assuming 4-2-3-1, I genuinely do not know what we're going to do with Caicedo. I assume he has to go out on loan again. Andre Santos, I'm like, yeah, if we don't have that many 6s, like some people are now saying, oh, Caicedo is more certain. He plays the deepest for Brighton. I'm like, okay, yeah, true, he does. And they hold it against Ugarte that he presses. And I'm like, yeah, but that's Sporting's play style.
Yeah.
But Caicedo plays a 6 in De Serbi's play style, which is very different to a Pochettino 6. It's not the same thing. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, you asked me, what do I do with them? I don't know. It depends on who else we sign, realistically.
Yeah, no.
And also who actually ends up leaving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because, I mean, if we end up with Kante going, Mount going, Ruben going, Kovacic going, that's 4. You could even end up with Gallagher going as well. That's 5. If we lost those 5 or 4 of those 5, that literally leaves us with Chukwuemeka, Enzo, and let's say Gallagher stays. That leaves us with Chukwuemeka, Enzo, and Gallagher, and that's it. Plus, obviously, Caicedo and Santos. So that's not
I
great.
Guess Lewis Hall, theoretically,
and maybe Lewis Hall, but is he going to be a left back? What's his place in the squad going to be? So you look at that, and this is what I say. Like, it's great that we're getting rid of players, but let's be careful, because right now we don't want to send all these guys out the door, and then we haven't got enough. We haven't got enough replacements coming in. I mean, what do you think the focus should be on now in terms of midfield targets? Do you think it's chuck everything at Caicedo? We obviously need more than one. Would your preference now be Caicedo and Lavia?
Caicedo, yes. The other one, sure, I'd be happy with Lavia, but do I know if he's so much better than some other options? I don't. So get Caicedo and someone else who's good. Once we get serious links, I will do more research and learn more about them and then know more about them. But right now, I would say Caicedo and somebody else. And I would be happy with Lavia. At the same time, the kid's 19. Kind of tailed off at the second half of the season. Sure, he's 19, so that's acceptable and understandable.
Yeah.
And he should be reasonably cheap considering Southampton got relegated. So that would be a target I understand, but it's not a target that will, play the biggest part in our top 4 chase next season. I just can't see a 19-year-old doing that, personally.
No, I mean, I can't either. And this is the problem we've got in terms of going with the experience route, is that I'm not saying we can't do anything and we can't be good with, say, a midfield of Enzo, Lavia, and Caicedo, but Enzo would be the oldest guy at 22 in that midfield. That's a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. Now, he looks like a guy that pressure doesn't really get to him and responsibility doesn't seem to be a problem, but that's a big ask for a guy that's just come in and been here a few months. Now, it's tricky. It is tricky. I don't really know what the answer is, but I almost feel now we have to get Caicedo, because let's throw this to a worst case scenario, mate, and we don't get Caicedo. What are we looking at then? Because then we're looking at,
mate, a funeral
being fucked. Yeah, we are looking at like we're in big trouble, because then you're looking at the options and you're looking right. You're looking at Manu Kone, you're looking at Lavia. Where's the experienced option there? Because for me, at the start of this window,
bring Jorginho back, anyone?
I mean, the window's not even open, but for me, at the start of this whole summer business and that, we had to get one of Rice or Caicedo. Missing out on both of those then leaves you in my opinion, a massive drop off in quality for the position that we're looking for. So you're then looking at it and you think, well, who do we get? Because I think Lavia is a great player, but he's not ready to go into that Chelsea midfield and transform it the way it needs to be transformed. Neither, in my opinion, was Ugarte, but he would have been more ready and probably would complement Enzo very nicely. I think Caicedo transforms the midfield, as does Declan Rice, but none of these other names like Lavia, like Kone, like Kefram Turam, these guys that we're kind of, you hear that the clubs are linked with, none of those names move me or make me think that the midfield's going to be transformed. So, I mean, when you think of midfielders, who are you thinking that could potentially come in as the next rung down if we miss out on Caicedo? Because there's not many out there.
I mean, someone in the chat said João Palhinha. He's decent.
Yeah, I like him. Again, he'd cost a lot of money as well.
He probably would, yeah, but he's a decent player, good player. Like, obviously, you can talk there's talk that either Kimmich or Goretzka might be leaving Bayern. Would they want to come to us? No, realistically. Should you then consider someone like Calvin Phillips? Obviously, basically didn't play at City this season. Still a decent player. Like, if you're talking a step down from Caicedo, then and Rice, then you're not far off someone like Calvin Phillips. So. I don't know, bro. Honestly, I don't like sitting here and saying, "Oh, we should go for that guy." First of all, like you, I'm like, there's a few players I know a lot about that don't play at Chelsea that Chelsea haven't been linked to yet. But most players that don't play at Chelsea and that Chelsea haven't been linked to yet, I don't pretend to be an expert on. And I don't like pretending to be an expert on them because I'm like, oh yeah, get this guy, he's amazing. And I'm like,
it's like, mate, it's like with
for watching him twice and for watching a YouTube compilation.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like with Ugarte, isn't it? Like suddenly, loads of people that have never watched him then proclaim to be experts on him. Then he's not coming, and now suddenly again.
I never claimed to be an expert on Ugarte, but then I still did my research on it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I looked at some stats, I watched some analytical videos, I looked at some of what his strengths and weaknesses are. So, like, again, that doesn't mean I know everything about him, but that gives me a good, a bit of a broad overview on the player. And I don't have that for Manu Kone. I don't have that for Thuram from Nice. I don't know. But at the same time, my problem is that I, in the first place, disagree with most of the idea of who to target with the club because they want young players. I would not go for young players. So, like,
who do you go for then? Like,
I don't really have a name in mind in specific because I don't even want to put myself in a position where I think about who I would go for instead because I'm like, well, they're not going to go for the types of players like.
Would Gundogan
try it, Kimi? If you ask me, try it, Goretzka. If you ask me, it's not going to work. I get it.
Would Gundogan on a free tick boxes for Chelsea?
He doesn't really help defensively, does he? But,
no, but like, do you think would that be if that was a possibility?
Absolutely.
You think that's good? Yeah, that's the sort of what we're looking at.
Absolutely, would be a great signing. Do you not for Gundogan?
Yeah, no, I do, but like again, this is the problem where we're at right now. Is that what is our idea? Is it like, are we just a youth project now and we're just signing young players, or are we actually that's the plan, but we need to sprinkle it with some experience as well? Because I look at it and I just think we're a little bit lost, or we're stuck in the middle of two things at the moment where we definitely want the young players, that's clear, but then we're also like, well, shit, we do need some experience, but where do we find that experience? Because we're now selling all our experience. We're selling Kovacic, we're selling Loftus-Cheek. Looks like Kante could be the next player to go to Saudi. Like we're looking for experience, yet we're sending all our experience out the door. So we can't have it both ways. So I'd look at it, and yes, you can develop leaders, and I think Enzo definitely got those leadership qualities and can develop into a leader, but. You talk about having a lack of leaders on the pitch, and that's been a real problem this season. Well, we're shipping out two of our leaders. So, and it's hard to find those guys with leadership personalities, which is why I think Ugarte could have been one to develop into that. These South Americans, they've got that tenacity, they've got that physicality, they've got that mindset about them that not necessarily other players have. So I just look at it. I mean, I don't know the characters and the mindset of the players that we're linked with, but they don't necessarily scream leader at me. I mean, where do you think we find these leaders, other than developing some ourselves? They're a rare breed.
We won't find them other than by developing them ourselves because we won't sign them. Like our club is not chasing that. So, what can I say, bro? Like I say, we will have to turn those young players that we have already and that we are signing into leaders because we won't be signing any. It doesn't look like it. I mean. Since last summer, we haven't been linked to anyone above the age of 24.
No.
So, like, we genuinely haven't. Well, there was a small link to Keylor Navas, but God knows.
Oh, yeah, that's goalkeeper's different, though, isn't it?
Yeah, goalkeeper's firstly different, and secondly, it wasn't exactly the most reliable report either. So, makes it even worse from that perspective. So, yeah, leaders. I mean, I'm not saying young players cannot be leaders. Someone like Rice, in my opinion, was a leader already from the age of 21.
No, he's a leader for sure, yeah.
But then it makes it much more difficult because age kind of turns you into a leader almost naturally, not for everyone, but many more players. While when they're young, very few players are already leaders. Enzo looks a bit like he is one of those, but let the man learn some English first. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He can't even speak English, can he?
No.
It's like, mate, you need to lead this club on the pitch and off the pitch, but you can't speak the language or anything, but yeah, that's
people always talk about like Poch and developing these young players. Poch still had Vertonghen and Alderweireld. I know Alderweireld wasn't that old at the beginning.
Walker was experienced as well.
Exactly. Lloris in goal, they had some experienced players. Sure, they had a lot of young talented players, but they also had some experienced players. Like Moussa Dembele wasn't young.
He wasn't. And this. Yeah, this is going to be a problem for us. And now we're just going to have to move on from this Ugarte thing and hope that, we start the ball rolling on Caicedo. get the ball rolling on Lavia and other midfield players. So we do desperately need to get a move on. But let's, mate, what would you think of? I mean, he had a good World Cup. I don't know what his season's been like since the World Cup, but Amrabat at Fiorentina. I suppose if you could get anywhere near the performances that he gave for Morocco, he looks a decent player, but seems to have gone off the boil a little bit. Doesn't really seem to be linked with too many moves now. I mean, he was linked with Barcelona before. I think he's been linked with United in the past as well. Is that a good signing?
No.
I don't think so. Not a fan.
He was good at the World Cup, and were we linked to him? Not from a source, I guess, outlet that I would say is particularly reliable. We're like, oh yeah, we're actually linked with him. I'm not quite sure if I fully agree with Chelsea, the Kingslayer here. I'm not saying he's a bad player, and he's better than no player, but
it's definitely better than no player. I don't really know either. Let's move on, mate, from this midfield depression. Let's move on to Kai Havertz. Now, reports
more depression.
Reports emanating out of Spain suggesting that this is from Bild, in Germany. Kai Havertz's transfer to Real Madrid is becoming more and more concrete. His fee would be around £60 million, so around 60 million euros, which is around £52 million.
Yeah.
Firstly, mate, were you anticipating any interest from Havertz this summer? Because I'm being honest, mate. Look, I think a lot of us think it's really best if he moves on. I wasn't really expecting there to be any market for him this summer at all. In terms of Bayern Munich's the obvious choice, but it doesn't look like they're interested in him. Would he want to work with Tuchel again?
To be honest, bro, if you told me a month ago that Benzema might leave Madrid
to go Saudi,
well, yeah, but regardless of that, where he's going, but leave Madrid, and they can't get Mbappe and Haaland now, I would have said maybe they might have a bit of a thing for Havertz, just because Benzema isn't your natural striker either. Turned into that more and more the last few years, but was always a bit of a kind of centre forward style striker anyway. So Havertz actually fits that quite well. So I'm not actually surprised, but I also think the way Havertz is kind of suits a lot of what Real Madrid is personally. But weirdly, there was not a lot of clubs that I felt he suited. But weirdly, Real Madrid, one of the biggest in the world, is one that, if you ask me, would that make sense? I'm like, yeah, it kind of would make sense. Did I necessarily think that it would happen? No, I wouldn't. But are you happy with it? 60 million euros, 52 million pounds. I don't think that's enough money.
But can we really be asking for that much more? Considering, right, we bought him for 70 million quid, or with maybe a bit more with add-ons or whatever. I don't know if those add-ons were ever activated or not. But he's had 3 years at Chelsea where he's not performed to a level that's going to increase his value or hold his value, if we're being honest with ourselves there. So you think...
Sure, but we're asking apparently 70 mil for Mount.
Yeah, but I think that's...
And you don't have a transfer fee that we bought him for to compare it to, so... Don't even compare it to a transfer fee.
No, I suppose
Mount has 1 year left on his contract. Havertz has what, 2 or 3?
I think he runs out in 2025. So
there you go. So therefore, you should at least ask the same money, in my opinion.
Yeah, but are we? Yeah, we could ask, but do you
also think inflation?
Yeah, true. But do you think Havertz's value should be the same as we bought him for?
Based on his inflation, yeah.
But based on his performances, can we really ask for anywhere near what we bought him for? There's no way we can make a profit on him. No chance. We're not going to get more.
I don't think we should think like that. Like I say, because it's not about what a transfer value was 3 years ago.
No,
it's about what a transfer value is right now. And if compare what Ugarte has done in his career and what Kai Havertz has done in his career, should they be sold for the same money? No. But
if you put it like that, then no. But I mean. Would you? I presume then you wouldn't take that money for Havertz then if Madrid offered.
I mean, I'm not saying we should ask crazy amounts more, but I think 60 million pounds should be the minimum. I think that is still possible that we get that in the end. So I'm like maybe with including add-ons or whatever. At the end of the day, I'm not stopping the club selling him, right? But I personally would say we should get at least 60 million pounds for him purely because of contract length, inflation, us being in dire need for players. As much as people don't rate him. Some of them, most of them, whatever. If he's gone, Aubameyang's gone. Broja, who's still injured, is our only striker at the football club. So, let's hold our horses here with selling everyone on like a fucking market in Marrakesh, and maybe be a bit serious about what we apparently can't afford to meet PSG's offers for Ugarte. All right then. Well, then maybe we should make some more money so we can afford to buy all these players we want. You know what I mean?
Mate, do you think it'd be, I don't want to say a mistake to sell him, but I mean, I look at it and let's be real. He's a talented footballer. There's no two ways about
I'd
it.
like to keep him, but I know most others don't.
He's a very good footballer. We've clearly seen it from Leverkusen. And it's fair to say that he's massively under-delivered at Chelsea. And the only thing he's been consistent with the shit performances. No, and that's the truth. I don't think anyone can argue that. Leicester will be forever be grateful for the goals in the big moments.
I will stand by the fact that I don't think that's all his fault. But
no, not all his fault. But for whatever reason it is, we discussed it on your stream. Had the club let him down? Have we given him an environment that's conducive to performing to the best of his abilities? You could argue perhaps we haven't done that, but ultimately, for whatever the reasons are, he's not lived up to expectation. And we're not coming from a small sample size. We're coming from a sample size of 3 seasons. Even if you excuse the first season, new league, young, COVID,
but then
and all
you have
that.
to excuse this season as well. You know how Pice in the chat said, "Oh yeah, I said we forgot to talk about Kepa save of the season," and he's like, "Yeah, this season doesn't exist anyway." I'm like, okay, but if the season doesn't exist, let's not hold it against any of our players, please.
Yeah. If you're gonna sort of be like that about it, then you have to bring the same energy.
Because all 40 of them were dreadful, so we can't look at an individual and say, "Oh, you were bad."
But other than the fact of having no options, what other viable reasons are there for Havertz to stay? Because I can't see anything that's going to suggest that next season he'd suddenly turn into the player or anywhere near the player that we spent the money on. There aren't any
because we're getting Nkunku. If we weren't getting Nkunku, I would say I think Kai Havertz could very likely be like a Dele Alli for Poch and be that super high scoring number 10.
Do you not
I personally think Havertz would fit that idea very well, but because we're getting Nkunku, there's no point. So I agree with you. It's better to sell Havertz. Just make sure we get enough money.
But what about as a rotation though in the 10? Because surely if we get rid of these players, if Mount goes, if Havertz goes, who's the backup number 10? We're not keeping Felix. So who's
Gallagher? So
who's playing 10? So you think Poch's plan is going to be to rotate Gallagher and Nkunku at the number 10 slot?
No, I mean the report was that Poch is okay with Havertz leaving, but he would then want him replaced. So that's fair enough.
Well, who do we go and get as a 10 then?
Madison, maybe.
Madison, yeah. But then wouldn't we just be better off keeping Mason Mount?
Oh, much better off. But what can I say, bro? I think that, yeah. I think we're better off keeping Havertz. I think we're better off keeping Mount. One of them.
Basically,
we're not. So what can I say?
We're just creating extra work for ourselves. We're like, we need all these players and we need to get rid of players. But honestly, don't think we need to get rid of Mount and Havertz. For me, it should just be one. And if it's one of those two, we've got to get rid of Havertz, in my opinion.
And if you're letting both of those go, then you should keep Felix, who at least actually wants to be here, apparently.
Yeah, no, he does.
So that in itself is kind of a reason to keep him for me. As much as I was critical of Felix a lot throughout the season, I'm like, well, unlike Mount and Havertz, at least Felix is acting like he's trying to stay. So, fair play to him.
At least he wants to be here.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, might as well. But the club obviously don't think so. So we're letting all 3 of them go, and then we're going to get someone else. It's weird, isn't it, how Madison, they got relegated. And I still haven't seen super concrete links of
Just Newcastle and Spurs. I mean, Newcastle, the obvious links. They had 2 bids rejected for him in January. I think Spurs have been interested in him in the past, but other than that, there's not been anything major on James Maddison. But
I think we could compete with Newcastle on that as well. I know they're in the Champions League and we're not, but we're in London. I know Newcastle's a super place as well, I'm aware, but London's London.
Great,
look at James Maddison. The kind of guy James Maddison is, I feel like he would love London. So.
Yeah, it's not Newcastle's not London. It's got its pluses, but it's definitely not that London lifestyle and all that sort of thing. That does mean a lot to players or maybe all their girlfriends. Probably more importantly, I don't think it matters.
But doesn't he have 3 kids already, even though he's 24?
He's got a couple of kids, I think. Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, they can.
Why are footballers not understood the concept of condoms? Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah. Mate, those 2 boys can join the academy, and then we could.
There you go.
We could be
like Thiago Silva's kids.
Yeah, well, exactly. But yeah, it is a problem. Let me just bring one thing up. I mean, I don't know how reliable this source is, but they're okay sometimes. Let me just quickly find it. Reporting, I think it's Footy Insider. Now I don't really know how good this is, but they are saying that Brighton might they could. I mean, this phrasing is really irritating as well. Could be. I could be interested in a lot of things. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Brighton could be interested in including Chelsea's Trevor Chalobah in a potential swap deal for Moises Caicedo. Now,
I mean, better than Colwell.
Better than Colwell. Would you be more inclined to see Chalobah and money for Caicedo than Colwell and money for Caicedo.
Sure, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think this. Like, how many times have we linked with players plus cash deals since Bowley's come in, and not a single one has got anywhere near happening?
No.
Do you think this could be the summer?
Honestly, no, not with the Prem team. Realistically, at the same time, to be fair, it was down to us that didn't happen last year because they wanted Brighton wanted Colwell in
as
a part of the deal.
Thing, yeah.
So Brighton wanted that last year. So I guess maybe with Brighton it is possible, but likelihood I would still say it's probably not going to happen. But I would certainly prefer Chalobah going there than Colwell going there permanently. So.
Yeah, I would agree on that.
As well as I like Chalobah, but
yeah, no, I like Chalobah as well. But if it was a choice of Chalobah or Colwell, you probably say that Chalobah is the one to go. By the way, guys, not mentioned it today. Let's run the likes up, people. Over 50 of us locked in. Not even reached 30 likes yet. We need to get to at least 50 likes. It massively helps me out. It massively helps me out, guys. All you got to do is hover over that thumb button, give it a little click. It's free. It takes seconds. It spreads the stream, gets more people involved, and it really helps me out. So I would massively appreciate it. And whilst you're at it, you can also subscribe to the channel as well. We're on the road to 4,000 subscribers now as well. Aims to get there for the start of the season. Slightly ambitious, but what's life without a bit of a challenge? So yeah, the aim's to get to 4K before the start of the season.
Summer is probably more fun than the actual season for Chelsea. So
exactly, there's going to be loads of good stuff coming over the summer. So make sure you stay locked in. Subscribe if you're new round here and you haven't done so right now. And let's get these likes up to 50 likes, people. Mate, let's move away from all this midfielder stuff and Kai Havertz. Let's talk about goalkeepers. Now, there's been a report suggesting, now again, I don't know how accurate this is, that whilst Chelsea were in discussions with AC Milan for Ruben Loftus-Cheek, they had a verbal bid for Mike Maignan rejected. Now, I don't know how true that is. Maignan obviously is my number one choice, but again, I can't see us getting him or Milan selling him. Do you think is that a deal that you'd like to see?
Yeah, it'd be a deal I'd be a big fan of. It's for us, it's almost unfortunate in that sense that because of Juve's points deduction, Milan made Champions League. They made top four because of that. Because if they weren't in the Champions League, Milan would firstly be more in need of money and therefore be willing to sell for cheaper, but also Maignan wouldn't be as inclined to stay, I guess, like for that reason as well. So yeah, I'd be a big fan of it. I don't see it happening unless we bid much crazier money, but then there's another one where I'm like, so you can't exactly say not going for Ugarte had financial reasons.
Yeah, well, it would exactly. But I think we've probably got Juventus's corrupt accountants to thank for this deal potentially not happening, because that's why they're not in the Champions League this season. So, and that's why Milan are. So maybe that's where we're at. But I mean, 60 million euros. I don't know how many years Maignan got left on his contract, but he's obviously a great age, a top goalkeeper. I think he's one of the best in the world for me. He'd make a massive difference, but mate, you'd have to up that way past 60 million euros. I think you'd have to look at 80 million euros before they get anywhere near in that situation. But in keepers in general, obviously, it looks like that. Obviously, Kepa is probably going to stay because we're just not going to be able to get anyone to pay anywhere near the wages that he commands. But in terms of a keeper coming in, it looks like Mendy's going to leave. We've obviously been linked with David Raya, we've been linked with Andre Onana. Keylor Navas, there were links with as well. I guess the question is, mate, is what route do we go down? Do we sign an Onana or a David Raya, or do we maybe sign a veteran stopper in a Keylor Navas for 1 or 2 years and then try for Maignan, where the lie of the land could be a little bit different? It could be a little bit easier to get him. What sort of route do you think is better for us to go down? Between Onana and a stopgap instead. Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? Like I'm kind of stuck, really. A lot of it depends on how much does Onana cost. What would his wages be?
Well, there was those reports, weren't there, that Inter would be open to using Edouard Mendy as part of the deal.
Yeah. See, the Chelsea fan in me wants to say, just get Onana, and if in 2 years he's not good enough, we get someone else. But the problem is, I don't trust our football club to be in a healthy enough position in 2 years' time to be able to do that. So therefore, but Keylor Navas has always been And I'm not sure if I've always just had a problem with him. I don't know. When everyone was always praising him, and he won obviously all those Champions League.
He was good at Madrid, mate.
Yeah, I know, but I never thought he was as good as most people seem to have thought. I always thought if Madrid had one weakness, it was Keylor Navas. Like in that whole team, I always thought he was their biggest weakness. Not that he was dreadful, but not to the level of the rest of the team. And now he's 36. He was at Forest. I didn't really watch him much there, but I don't know. Like I would be okay with it as like try it, but I can't sit here and say it's my first choice, bro. I can't sit there and say
it's not. It's definitely no. It's not the first choice. It's not the first choice. Oh, mate, let me just bring this up as well. Let's get rid of something from The Athletic from 4 minutes ago. Let me just quickly bring this up. We'll get back to this in a sec. Saying that, is this it here? Yeah, right. Let me just quickly bring it up. Basically saying, mate, that PSG had drafted a legal letter to complain to Sporting on Sunday after media reports emerged suggesting Chelsea might take a stake in the Portuguese club as part of a proposed transfer for Ugarte. Sources close to the dealings between Chelsea and Sporting deny a minority stake in the Portuguese club was discussed in relation to the transfer, but PSG intended to write to Sporting for answers and escalate matter to UEFA until Chelsea pulled out on Sunday evening. PSG's draft letter cited UEFA rules that forbid one club from owning shares or securities in another while participating in UEFA competitions and expressed concern that commercial leverage, such as a stake, could be used to influence a transfer. Chelsea pulled out after meeting release clause. They say because they felt salary offer from PSG was too high, but PSG insists the player will be paid 3.4 million euros annually, and Chelsea's offer was higher. But reports in Portugal claim PSG's offer was much higher. Jesus Christ, there's loads of this here. But because Chelsea pulled out, PSG did not escalate to actually sending the letter to Sporting, but a sign of the growing tensions between PSG and Chelsea after previous row over Ziyech in January. Jesus, there's a lot to unpack here, bro. Let's start with this. Why have we? What I'm reading from this, bro, is that we've pulled out because they've threatened to report us to UEFA, and they're supposedly offering the same. They're offering less wages than we actually offered in the first place, 3.4 to 3.5 million euros.
I mean, I wouldn't take PSG's word for their wages. Because, I mean, like City, they run a state-owned club. Like, there's all sorts of dodgy business going on with their wages. So, like, I wouldn't take that part. I would almost ignore. But the rest of it is still interesting. Now, first of all, I want to say PSG is waffling a bit because we are not in European competitions. So, it has nothing... Like, us owning Sporting is actually currently not a problem because we are not in Europe. So, they can go do one for that part. But still, I agree with you. And I touched on this earlier. The fact that there's even this story going around, and how weird does it sound? Like no one heard about this new PSG offer until we pulled out. But what we heard about is that we apparently want to buy a stake in Sporting. All of a sudden we pull out. It's just a weird, I'm not saying it's necessarily the reason, but it's just too weird of a coincidence in my opinion. It's interesting that Chelsea and Sporting both claim it's not happening, but that will tell me, like, did we try to do it secretly? Because this would have come public eventually. So like, I don't understand. Like, I don't really understand why this is scaring us so much. Because if it was scaring you so much, but if it is scaring you that much, why were you trying it in the first place? Or were we even trying it? Obviously, Chelsea and Sporting insist we didn't. So who knows, man?
I mean, Chelsea claiming they pulled out for salary reasons, but then basically someone's lying here. And I don't know if we're...
probably.
Yeah, but I don't know if we're ever...
Maybe all of them. Maybe no one's telling the truth.
Probably all of them are fucking lying. But, mate, I don't know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of this, of what the actual truth is. If someone gets a screenshot of Ugarte's contract, of exactly what it is, or we can go to the Qatari bank and find the statement where it's depositing fucking Ugarte's wages into his account, that's the only way we're going to find out, because someone's not being truthful here. And... Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing, by the way. If I was PSG, I'd do the exact same thing after what we did for Ziyech. I'd do the exact same thing.
Mate, they're being so petty, but it's the sort of stuff that I'd be exactly here for.
Exactly. If this was the other way around, I would want us to do the exact same thing.
Mate, PSG fucking... Do you think they're blackmailing us?
I don't know. I don't know. If
Mate, I
blacklight is
wish,
the
mate,
right word, yeah,
mate, I'm so disappointed we're not in the Champions League next season because we would love to get them in a game.
What, you'd love to get spanked by PSG, would you?
No, but like just for the shithousing, mate, of all this Ugarte stuff, this legal shit, the ZH stuff.
It would be
Mate,
fun.
we obviously don't have relations with old Todd and Nasser aren't so great right now. But surely we just didn't pull out for salary reasons.
But I'd almost prefer that though, because that would be the only reason I'd accept. If PSG offered 10 million euros and we were like, nah, we ain't doing that. But that's the only one. Fair enough then. Everything else is ridiculous to me. You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, the fact that they got a legal letter drafted and they were going to report us to UEFA and shit. I mean, we don't know the goings-ons, but it makes you think that this story's obviously come from somewhere. Someone's not just made this up, because that would be a real strange thing to make up in my opinion. But fuck, I don't know what to say about this, mate. This is just another one of them really weird stories that, you know, why is no transfer ever simple with Chelsea? You have Enzo.
Because we're not in Europe, bro. We're trying for players.
Mate, we had the Enzo saga.
For.
We had the Mudryk saga. Now we've got this Ugarte one, where supposedly we've tried to buy a stake in the club to ensure we get the player. I mean, what the fuck are these guys?
On the one hand, I'm like, I kind of rate that they seem to be trying to revolutionize how everything works in football, but I'm like, sometimes it feels like, have you thought about this before, or did you just come up with this? Like, I don't know, did they sit there snorting a few lines like, oh yeah, let's do that, guys?
Guys, this is a great plan. By the way, people, keep running the likes up. Let's get 13 more likes to the magic 50 mark. Let's get more likes than Chelsea got points last season. People, we can manage that. We can definitely manage that.
Behind on that. That's too low of an aim.
Yes, people, let's run it up, guys. 13 more likes. Keep smashing the like button. It really helps me out, and subscribe to the channel as well. Let me just get to a few bits in the chat. Kunde and Rafinha, not ideal. What about other DM options like Kefram, Thuram, Everton's Onana, Fulham's Palhinha? Out of those three, bro, who would you have if you could have one of those? I'd probably take Palhinha.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, I like Onana from Everton, but I don't know if he's the profile we're necessarily looking for. Mate, again, Palhinha, another one that's come from Sporting. They're not bad at finding these midfielders.
No, like Ugarte was literally his replacement.
Yeah. So now I wonder who maybe what we should do, mate, is next summer we'll sign the geezer that replaced Ugarte this summer.
Yeah, maybe that's an idea, you know.
Yeah, mate, I think, mate, this time next year we'll be sitting there having this conversation saying, "Oh shit, Chelsea have missed out on the Ugarte replacement to some other team." There's a possibility in that one. Let me get. I want to quick. I know we'll round out in a sec, bro. I wanted to get your thoughts on centre forwards, because that's another area where we need to invest massively, but it's another area to say the market's poor. I'll be honest, the market's poor for me in the centre forward position. Ivan Toney would have been my guy. Unfortunately, the band's put that one on the shelf, and then you're thinking, right, Victor Osimhen, the guy, but massive money, going to cost at least 120, 130 million euros, probably, could be more. And is he the answer? Is he the fit at Chelsea? Is he what we're looking for? Yes, he could look like he's a bit like a mini Drogba and whatnot, but I always worry about massive money signings at Chelsea in the centre forward department, because they never seem to work out. But then you're looking at the next rung down. You're looking at guys like Lautaro Martinez from Inter. You're then looking at Dusan Vlahovic as well. Mate, where do you stand on a centre forward market? Because there's not a lot of options there. With Benzema going now, I'm not saying we're going to get Kane, but Madrid, I think, will throw everything at Kane now that Benzema's gone to Saudi. Who do you think we should be looking at? Because this is another tricky position for us to get right, with there not being that many good options.
And it's another position where I honestly don't know the answer, because I would like Osimhen, just don't think it's realistic. I would have liked Toney. Unfortunately, the man has a betting addiction, gambling addiction. Vlahovic screams Lukaku in every way to me. Both tall, both quite quick long distance, both have their issues in acceleration, both very heavily left-footed, both quite tall and strong, but both only really proven in Serie A. I guess Lukaku is more proven in the Premier League, and he still didn't work for us. So how likely does that make Vlahovic to work for us? Also, Vlahovic could get a start over Mitrovic at the World Cup for Serbia. That concerns me. I won't lie.
Yeah, he wasn't. He didn't start, did he?
No, exactly. This season at Juve, now he wasn't awful in comparison to how bad Juve were, but when you consider that Juve had a point deduction, they weren't that bad. And then he still wasn't that great. You know, I know they had their issues and everything.
He wasn't a regular starter.
No, exactly. Like they started, I forgot his first name, but Milik, you know, formerly of Napoli, formerly of God knows where else he played. Not the best striker in the world. Again, played over Vlahovic very often. Why? So that's why Vlahovic is another one that concerns me. And then who even is there?
Well, this is it. I mean, mate. So
what about probably going to go for Thuram, who we wanted in January?
What about Kolo Muani?
Well, he's going to cost way too much money, but he also has his issues. And for how much money he would cost, I don't think he's that good. Like he's a good player, and I would actually quite like to have him, but he costs too much money for how good / not good he is.
Mate, it's a problem. It's a problem. This. Where do you stand on Osimhen?
Bro, I'm just crossing my fingers. I'm under Broja is good.
Oh yeah, well that's all we've got at the moment. But let me bring this up. This is from what's the date today? The 5th. This is from like 5 days ago. I think this is Fabrizio's podcast. Chelsea are interested in Osimhen and Martinez, but will not panic in their search for a striker. Good to hear. Chelsea also believe in Kunku can play striker. Not so good to hear.
Fair enough, but we don't have another 10 anyway. So,
well, exactly. Osimhen and Martinez are not the only targets. Chelsea are still looking at options. Now, mate, are you on the Victor Osimhen train?
Or but we won't get him, bro. Like, I cannot believe.
Well, where do you think? Do you think he leaves this summer? By the way,
because Spalletti left Napoli, I think it's more likely that he leaves. And I know Drogba is his idol, and because of Drogba, he's a fan of Chelsea. I understand all of those things, but the only problem I have is who would go for Osimhen? Like, who else would? Yeah.
I'll get mate from Paris.
But then again, Mbappe is staying, so will they really go for Osimhen?
Well, Messi's gone. And
but will they not go for wingers more likely? Because do they want to move Mbappe to the wing again? Is that what they want?
That's where he's been playing. That's where he's played most of the time anyway. Really,
at PSG. I don't think this season he has.
Actually, mate, I could just be completely bullshit.
Because obviously, Neymar is injured obviously all the time. But if you have Neymar, Messi and Mbappe, well, you're not playing Mbappe in the left wing, are you?
Yeah, I guess they were kind of roaming a little bit. I don't really know, but I mean, could Real Madrid go for Osimhen now?
Sorry, say again?
Madrid could go for Osimhen now that Benzema's gone. They need a forward.
It depends on what their plans are for Havertz, I guess.
But but Havertz will replace Asensio. They need a striker as well.
Yeah, I still wouldn't be too surprised if he actually ends up replacing Benzema personally, but in terms of position on the pitch. Because Asensio didn't start a lot. So I'm not sure they would be paying 60 million for Havertz to put him on the bench. I mean, they did that for Jovic, to be fair, a couple of years ago. But
they did, yeah. Jovic. I mean, he's at Fiorentina now, not doing very much.
Nope. Just missing sitters left, right, centre every time I see anything from them. every time I watch the Fiorentina highlights, there's a Jovic miss in there.
Mate, you know what's going to happen now you said that, mate? He's going to score in the Conference League final next week.
Well, bloody hope so. I'd rather them than West Ham. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who we go. What are your thoughts on Rasmus Højlund? That's another one we've been linked with. But for me, I just look at it and I think, it's another young striker. What are we doing? We've got Broja. We've got Datro Fofana. Yeah. What are we doing? What's our plan? Are we just hoarding the best strikers in their early 20s?
Yeah, then go for Sesko. Oh no, Sesko has agreed to go somewhere already.
Sesko's at Leipzig, mate.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Højlund is another one. Okay, he scored a hat-trick for Denmark. Brilliant. He scored 7 goals for Atalanta, and he's not their starting striker. So no. Is a no for me personally.
And he's about 60 million euros as well.
Yeah, for what? 7 goals and being a backup striker right now. Are you meant to? Do you know what I mean? This is the problem with constantly buying young players, by the way, because for young players, you pay so much for potential and not so much for the actual ability that even though you're signing a player that's not that good yet, at least, you're paying so much money. So that's why it often makes much more sense to sign players that are a bit older, because then you're paying more for their actual ability rather than for potential.
Do you know who I would have quite liked, but he's fucked off to Leipzig today? You know that Appender at Lens?
Yeah. Honestly, I literally only know him from FIFA, so I literally couldn't.
Mate, that's what we seem to be doing at the moment anyway. Just seems to be just signing players like we're on FIFA, except we're not actually getting the deals done.
Yeah, but not even like on FIFA, Mudryk gets a silver card, so we're not even doing that, bro.
Mate, just before we round out, very briefly, what your thoughts on Lautaro Martinez? A lot of people say to me in the chat and stuff like, "Oh no, he can't play up front by himself. Oh, he's a second striker." I know he's at Inter. He's played in a 2 because that's what they've done with Lukaku and Edin Dzeko and whatnot. But this guy can play up top on his own.
I will say one thing: he's a striker who doesn't rely on getting in behind. And all of our striker recently have all relied on that, and none of them have worked. Because we never really, because of how opponents play against us, because how we play, we never really managed to make that happen often enough. So from that perspective, I'm like, actually, there is some sort of logic to someone like Lautaro Martinez, because his strength isn't getting in behind. And actually, we need a striker whose strength is not getting in behind. Because Osimhen would also have, that's also his strength, getting in behind. So that would also, obviously he's amazing in the air. So that's also a big benefit to Osimhen. He's absolutely brilliant in the air. From corners, from free kicks, from crosses, all sorts. But so that will be a benefit to Lautaro Martinez. But that's another one who I can't see happen. You've literally got Lukaku sat there telling him, "Don't go there, mate." Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Lukaku literally did an interview while at Chelsea telling Martinez to stay at Inter because they'll come back, not to come to Chelsea. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's an inconsistent finisher, Jonas. I'm not sure that's true.
Because he's got back-to-back 25 plus goal seasons.
Exactly. And he scored 16 league goals this season from an XG of 9.2. So far outscoring his own XG. That's actually the finishing is actually the best thing about him, if anything.
Yeah.
But I still agree that he's not amazing at it. But it's still one of his better attributes.
No, it absolutely is one of his better attributes. There's no denying it. But you look at the list of targets that we're linked with, and I don't look at a single one other than possibly Vlahovic and think we've actually got a decent chance of getting any of them. And that's a massive problem.
Honestly, I would rather Mitrovic than Vlahovic.
Mate, I was streaming last night, right? And loads of people in the chat were mentioning Mitrovic, saying, it should be Mitrovic. We should get Mitrovic. He'd be good.
I get Jamie Vardy. Do you know what I mean?
Mate, do you honestly, on Mitrovic, bro, do you actually think he'd be decent for us?
Absolutely. I mean, he'll be banned for the start of next season because he pushed a ref, unfortunately.
Yeah, not ideal, that.
No, but outside of that,
you'd be happy to go into next season with Broja and Mitrovic as the forward options.
Well, no, I wouldn't be happy with that. I wouldn't be happy with that at all. But...
well, this is my point. Like, Broja's going to be...
When you're telling me that, I'm like, shit, are we sure we shouldn't bring Lukaku back?
Yeah, but this is my point, though. Broja's going to be it's going to be the backup centre forward option. I mean, do you think the plan's maybe that's using Kunku as a striker and rotating with Broja, and then we're going to sign a number 10?
Yeah, but what 10? What, Maddison?
Well,
There's a reason. Like, he's good, but he didn't save Leicester from getting relegated now, did he?
No, I mean, admittedly, you got to do it.
He's also injured quite a lot.
Also, I'm not sure if this is tongue-in-cheek and a bit of a joke.
I hope so.
I think it could be, mate, because I've definitely seen him in the chat on your channel before as well. So I'm pretty sure that's a joke. But mate, if you've not done it, maybe you should probably give it a go.
Yeah, you might check us out later. Charlie will be on as well.
Mate, you quite enjoy it actually. I think you'd be good at it, bro. You should.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I haven't thought of it yet, really.
Yeah, mate, there'll be lots of content this summer as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this forward issue is looking a bit of a problem, to say the least.
And I do apologize both to you, Charlie, and to everyone watching that on so many of these things. I'm like, well, I don't know. But the problem is, first of all, that I do not know.
And secondly, none of us really know.
Exactly. But also that, like I said earlier, the players that the club wants, I don't want. And the players that I want, the club doesn't want. So I don't even want to think about who I would want, because then I get myself hyped about a player that I might want. But if the player aren't going to chase that, what's the point in getting myself hyped for that anyway?
Yeah, exactly. He's been busted. Yeah, we knew that. Nah, mate, Panda, you said this to me the other night, bro. This is a nonsense. We discussed it. I discussed this the other day. That's not happening, and B, who are you proposing to bring in as wingers then? Because that would leave us with literally Madueke and Sterling and no one else if we loaned out Mudryk. So that's not making any sense.
I mean, arguably, we need a winger even if Mudryk stays, because we still only have 3.
Well, exactly. I mean, mate, do you think you can get rid of Ziyech and Pulisic?
Yes.
You think there's market for him?
Yeah. Especially like the report that came out earlier. I'm not sure you haven't brought it up, but that Pulisic is also willing to take a pay cut. So like Pulisic will definitely go. Ziyech was already in Paris, man. He's not going to want to stay, is he? Let's be honest.
Do you reckon we could get Ziyech to Paris again?
No.
That's done.
And this, maybe we should do though. Maybe we just say you can have him for free.
Yeah, as a gesture of goodwill. Don't
exactly to say sorry. Like send it with a gift wrap around it. I mean, like that American Pie, you know, put the gift wrap around a certain part of the body.
Yeah. What we'll do is, guys, don't report us to UEFA.
Sure, the Qatari owners will be well happy.
Don't report us. Or what we could do is, mate, we'd be like, guys, don't report us to UEFA. Here's Ziyech as a thank you, and we'll forget this ever happened.
Yeah,
and that way, we can't be doing it. We can't be doing this again. Well,
yeah,
no.
I don't know, man. Honestly, I think they will leave. I just can't imagine them not leaving. But
you think they're both going to leave, Dembele and Rafinha?
No, sorry. I was still talking Ziyech and Pulisic.
Yeah, sorry.
Dembele and Rafinha. Well, I don't want Rafinha, and I don't think we'll get Dembele. So, at the same time, do I prefer Rafinha to having no squad? Yes. So,
this is it.
Madison can play left wing. All right, then. Well, then play Mason Mount left wing. Why not? Yeah, I mean,
well, we could play him in a Dele Alli role and all that, but we took Tuchel and Silva and won the CL from them. Yeah, at least they can have Ugarte and they can report us to UEFA, but we'll have their gaffer and their centre back in the Champions League, and they'll never have that. So we'll always have that over them. Right, seems like a good place to round this one out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, as I said, make sure you run up the likes on your way out. Massively helps me out, and it doesn't take any time at all. So let's get this to the 50 likes, people. We're 4 likes away, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. And hopefully Chelsea, maybe I was expecting to be celebrating a done deal. We weren't celebrating a done deal. Instead, we were potentially celebrating a transfer ban and a lawsuit. But hopefully we can avoid that, and in the coming days and weeks we can get some players through the door. But after this debacle and the debacles last summer, I'm not taking anything seriously until that player is holding up the Chelsea shirt at Common, because I can't go through this again. Can't go through it again. Lawrence, thanks for your time as always, bro. Massively appreciated. Guys, make sure you subscribe to Lawrence. You don't even need to click the link in the description. It is added in the description. You just got to click that. It takes you straight to his channel. Make sure you subscribe. There's loads of great stuff on there. So
we're going live in literally 15 minutes,
and we're going live again as well. So make sure you head over to there and tune in. So yeah, massive thank you, bro. Guys, I'll be back tomorrow with some more transfer updates. Don't really know what I'll be talking about, but there'll be some sort of stuff going on, as there always is. So make sure you stay locked in for that one. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Catch you again tomorrow. Up the Chels.